This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here at this forum on business issues. We're in the middle of a federal election campaign that will lead up to Election Day on Monday, October 21st. Canadians have the opportunity to vote, making a decision on local candidate and ultimately the party that will lead our federal government. It is for this reason we prepared an event to inform and educate our membership and the business community. By way of introduction, the Board of Trade has been the recognized voice of business community since 1955. We represent close to 700 businesses in this community, representing a wide array of business sectors, business sizes, including those who serve local community and international community. We are proud to provide a strong voice for Ajax and Pickering on shared advocacy issues. Our local MP is a critical position and a voice in both communities represented by our Board of Trade. This morning we are asking our candidates for their party's position and perspective on business-related issues, priorities that are important to our membership and to our community. So here's the format we will follow. Each candidate will take 2 minutes to introduce themselves, providing comments about their experience and to bring a brief statement to explain why they've chosen to participate in this election. This will be followed by a small period of questions and responses on the various business issues that I will bring on behalf of our business membership. All candidates will be given an opportunity to respond to each question which will be posed, in turn by each candidate, allowing for 1 moment response. This is not a debate nor an argument, but a time to respectfully review the policy and positions of these candidates and their federal parties on various business issues. At the end of the question period, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make closing remarks. Samantha Patterson will provide a yellow warning flag when there's 20 seconds remaining and a red flag identifying the end of the statement, and then I'll cut you off. We are pleased to have 9 of the 10 candidates representing the mainstream federal parties that are standing for these elections in the 2 communities. We received regrets recently from Ajax candidate Maya Knight from the Green Party, who unfortunately had a previous university commitment and cannot attend this morning. So let's get started with the introductions from the candidates, going in alphabetical order by surname and by geographic area. Beginning on my far right, we're going to start with Tom Dingwall, Conservative candidate for Ajax riding. Would you please take 2 moments to introduce yourself and speak to why you're standing as a candidate for a Member of Parliament in your community, Tom?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Dingwall, and I am your Conservative candidate for Ajax. I would like to thank all of you for getting up so early and joining us today. I would also like to thank the Durham Region Realtors Association, the Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade, and the Home Builders Association for hosting today's event, and for Joan for monitoring and keeping us in line today. First of all, I am a husband of 22 years to my lovely wife Arlene, and a father of 2 amazing boys. I am a sergeant with the Durham Regional Police Service, and I have been with the Durham Police for 27 years. I've watched Ajax grow from a sleepy town to what it is today. I have worked in the Ajax-Pickering Detective Office, the Major Crime, Sexual Assault and Child Abuse Unit, the Homicide Unit as a lead investigator, and presently as an investigator in professional standards investigating allegations of police misconduct. But in addition to that, I have a deep understanding of business and of real estate. I recognize that small business and entrepreneurs like you drive our economy. You build successful business, you create jobs, you contribute to our communities, and you give people hope. You are the experts and the innovators. Some say government should get out of the way, and in some cases that's correct. But I also believe we need to partner, to listen, and to invest to support your success, because your success is our success. I believe we must find a balance between our economy and our environment. We must provide for our seniors, our veterans, and ensure that we have safe communities in which to raise our families. I believe we can attract new business, prosperous business, while respecting each one of our individual communities. I have the courage to take on any challenge and the skill set required to represent and fight for Ajax, the region, and for Canada. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now Mark Holland, the Liberal Party.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joan. I want to start by thanking you. You've moderated these for as long as I've done them, which says something. And to say to everybody here today, thank you not only for your presence, but for what you do to drive forward the economy of Durham region and all you do to help employ people and make our region as successful as it is. It's been my tremendous privilege to be a member of Parliament with an involuntary leave in 2011. I've been there since 2004 and prior on council. And I've tried my entire life to serve our community. I'll speak about that as we move through, but I wanted to paint a very quick picture about where we were and where we are. You know, 4 years ago, Canada was in a position where we had the worst growth rate that we had had since the Great Depression. We were at the back of the pack in terms of the G7. Over the last 4 years, we've seen over 1 million jobs created. Over 80% of those are full-time. We've seen the lowest unemployment rate since statistics were kept in 1960. And we see some really important things like the highest rate of female participation in the workforce and the highest numbers of youth participation in the workforce. And at the same time, we've driven down poverty. For the first time, the federal government has poverty reduction targets, and we've seen 820,000 people lifted out of poverty, including 300,000 children. We've done this while at the same time making sure that we help small businesses by lowering the small business tax rate from 11 to 9%, finally putting a price on pollution so that we can take aim at making sure that we're taking responsible action on climate change. And also, I think it's incredibly important to talk about the investments we made in infrastructure and cuts to taxes for the middle class. All of those things have helped, along with your enormous work, to help drive our economy to a strong and vibrant place it is today. I look forward to the exchange of debates, or the exchange of ideas that we have here today, not debate, and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Shaukat Milak, New Democratic Party.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you for being here today. My name is Shaukat Malik, and I'm the candidate for NDP running for Ajax. For the past 25 years, I have helped thousands of Canadians through representing them at different levels of Ontario tribunals. In addition to that, I have been helping people as a real estate agent and serving the town of Ajax in almost all sectors, residential or commercial. During all these years, I have been serving the people of Ajax, and now I'm eager and committed to broaden the scope of my service to help the people of Ajax. Over the past couple of weeks, it was a very exciting time, knocking on the door, talking to people, listening to them, knowing their concerns. And what I have learned, people are worried. People are worried about the cost of living, housing, medicines, the phone bills, and other bills, all adding up to the families that haven't got a real raise for years. Liberals and conservatives made decisions that favored the huge corporations, but they have not been able to represent the people they were supposed to represent. They have not been able to work for all Canadians. NDP has taken that initiative that we are not in it for the huge corporations or the 1% elite. Rather, we are in for all Canadians. And I would urge that NDP is the only party that is representing the interest of all Canadians. And in that particular situation, if the Liberals and Conservatives are still saying that they have done better work for Canadians, then we must see that we don't see it here. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Susanna Russo, People's Party of Canada.
Sure.
Is it on?
No. Is it on?
Just leave it on, yeah.
Hello. I'm Susanna Russo.
and am honored to represent Ajax, hold it to my face, as the People's Party of Canada candidate in the upcoming elections in October. I love this country, and I'm grateful to Canada as an immigrant myself for the infinite opportunities this country has given me. I am not a career politician. I am a small business owner and a farmer producing maple syrup and honey. I understand the struggles students, families, and indeed all Canadians are experiencing in this economic climate. The People's Party of Canada is committed to creating an environment where jobs are created for all Canadians. We have real, workable policies in place designed to put Canadians first, to lower taxes, to rescind the carbon tax, to eliminate capital gains tax, putting our Canadian tax dollars to work in Canada for Canadians. I'm committed as your Member of Parliament to ensuring that your hard work pays off and you will be able to have more of your own money in your own pocket. The beautiful town of Ajax is vibrant. It's a unique part of Durham, and I pledge to ensure that Ajax remains such. I stand for our Canadian values, traditions, cultures, and most importantly, our freedoms. Thank you for having me here this morning.
Thank you very much. And now moving to the Pickering-Uxbridge candidates, starting with Cornelio Dusu, the People's Party of Canada.
Thank you.
Is it on? Intermittent. Mic check. Check. Mic check. Mic check.
We just grab the other one.
Yeah. Mic check.
Okay.
Hold it up high. Hold it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, good. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, thank you for having me today. I am Corneliu Cizu, a professional engineer and retired major from the Canadian Forces with services in Bosnia and Kandahar, Afghanistan. I am also the former member of parliament for Pickering-Scarborough East, and I was a candidate for Pickering-Uxbridge in the last federal election. People's Party of Canada is the political party who put the interest of Canadians before anything else. We are focused on the issues that matter for Canadians, not the pundits, not the self-appointed experts and elites. These are economic and financial security, creating and protecting jobs, lower taxes for families, and keeping Canada and Canadians safe in a dangerous and uncertain world. We need a country where jobs, good jobs, are available for future generations. We need a healthy, competent and qualified in the House of Commons. We need a modern judiciary, which is unbiased, politically upholds high ethics, and is responsible to citizens in applying the rule of law. We need a press interested in supporting citizens to achieve excellence, a press that cherishes the freedom of speech, which today is prisoner of political correctness. People's Party of Canada stands steadfast behind the veterans, the men and women who sacrifice for our country. It stands for the freedom of expression and protecting Canadians from censorship and discrimination. It will focus on Canadians first before spending billions of taxpayers' money abroad on international projects without accountability. It will give provinces the incentives to deal with wait times and raising costs of healthcare, and it will work hard to balance the budget as soon as possible. Pickering is a wonderful place to live, but we need more jobs, especially for youth. For decades, Durham region has been neglected in infrastructure, transportation, and community services despite its sizable population. This election is about who really has the interest of Canadians at heart, to keep Canada safe, the economy strong, and assure a brilliant future for our children.
Good morning. Thank you, Joan, and the rest of the team for organizing today's event, and thank you very much, everyone, for coming out today. I grew up in the GTA, and I've called Pickering home for almost 20 years since we got married. This is the place that we chose to raise our two children. Our riding, Ajax and Pickering, all the way up to Uxbridge, offers a great mix of both urban and rural lifestyle options, which we've taken full advantage. My two boys are in high school. I've got one that plays baseball in Pickering, one that plays baseball in Ajax, so it's always fun when they play against each other. Work-wise, I spent most of my career in the business sector, working for big companies such as IBM, all the way down to 3-person startups, as well as being self-employed. I was a member here of the Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade and served as a member of the board of directors for 2 years, as well as the chair of the Eco Business Advisory Team. So I understand the perspectives of business from startup all the way up to a multinational. But during the financial crisis, I returned to school and got a diploma in green business management, and I never would have guessed that only a few years later I would be teaching full-time at Seneca in entrepreneurship. Let me tell you, I love my job. The best part of my job is having the side conversations with students about their aspirations, their dreams, and so forth, and they are worried, and rightly so. Why is it that they have to go into such debt just to get an entry-level job? They pay tuitions 3 times the rate that we paid when we were in school, and many of you know that because you've got children in school yourselves. They want to know how they're going to pay back that debt, let alone be able to afford a house, start a family of their own. And you know what? They get a bad rap from us as being the older generation, but they've got a tough time out there. But what I want to say is this. I chose the Green Party as a business person because it is the only party that truly understands that entrepreneurs drive the economy. Through a sustainable economy, we will be able to give a future to the children, but also be able to take care of our seniors and everyone else in between. Thank you very much for coming out. I look forward to clarifying our statements in the debate to happen. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eileen Higdon, and I want to be your MP. I'll just take a moment to read this statement. Let us acknowledge the Creator entrusted the land on which we gather to First Nations peoples of the Iroquois, Ojibwe, Huron, Wendat, and Anishinaabe. We strive to decolonize our hearts, minds, and spaces to make it right with all relations. May it be so. We need to raise awareness about First Nations, Métis, and Inuit cultures, perspectives, contributions in our communities, in Ontario, especially here. Let us spread the word that they are all welcome in our party of equity and inclusiveness. Let us reach out our hands in fellowship to recognize each and every member of the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. Welcome them with dignity, respect into our midst. Our party recognizes and responds with vigor to the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Council's call to action. Okay. Hi, I am a retired registered nurse and mother of 3 and grandmother to 3 beautiful granddaughters. I come before you since living in Canada for the past 46 years. I have trusted the federal government to take care of my interests. Look at where we are now. Time and time again, they have consistently broken that trust. I cannot offer my grandchildren the same quality of life that we have had. 40% of Canada is in the Arctic Circle. We are melting, and melting very quickly. School children have started to strike against climate change. To stop. Bye.
Thank you, Eileen. Moving on to Saima Mosserat.
Good morning. Thank you for coming out today, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade, for hosting this beautiful event. I'm Saima, resident of Pickering, a proud wife and mother of 2 beautiful boys, Noah and Jonah, trying to bring them in a complex and politically correct world. President of Friends of SOS Children's Villages Canada, a charity focused on rehabilitating disadvantaged and orphan children throughout the world, for which I was given a Diamond Jubilee Medal. I'm also owner of a construction company, a small businesswoman, trying to stay competitive and navigating my way through a frivolous, complex, red tape, payroll taxes, income taxes, HST, and Trudeau's favorite tax, the carbon tax. Having door-knocked more than 30,000 doors and losing 10 pounds, I can tell you one thing. Voter frustration is very high. People are upset and angry with the economic hardships they're facing. They are really upset with the political corruption in Ottawa. There are rules for Justin Trudeau and his rich donors in Montreal, and there are rules for you and me. This has to stop, and it is going to stop. Pickering-Uxbridge is a diverse and a beautiful community. It's changing. It's in transition. It's time for action. You need a representative in Ottawa who can amplify your voice on matters that matter to you. And we need a conservative government who's going to create conditions for quality jobs and for businesses to flourish and new businesses to come to the region. Prosperity only happens when government gets out of the way and Canadians and you and I decide how we want to live our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to get ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Saima. And Jennifer O'Connell, representing the Liberal Party. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade for hosting this event again. I am Jennifer O'Connell. I am the Member of Parliament for the riding of Pickering-Uxbridge. Prior to that, I served on Pickering Council, Durham Region Council, and served as Deputy Mayor. And I did so for just under 10 years before deciding to run federally. Most recently, I was appointed as the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance, Youth Economic Opportunities, something that has been very important to our government and in particular for us in Durham Region, trying to address the issues of youth unemployment. The reason I ran back in 2006 for the first time is the reason I run again today. I believe government can be a force for good. I believe that there can be change in this country that can help lift and elevate everybody. I believe in an economy that works for everybody. And so Mark, my colleague, spoke about where we were in 2015. We were actually here debating whether or not we were in another technical recession. In 2015, after 10 years of $150 billion of debt, we had some of the lowest growth rates in our country's history, rising unemployment rates, stagnant wages. And in 4 years, by making a choice to invest in Canadians, we have seen the results. The results of a growing economy, one of the best balance sheets in the G7, the only G7 country with trade agreements with all of our G7 partners, which is opening up markets, allowing for Canadians to thrive and survive this changing global market. These are the types of investments that Canadians want to see, and as a result of these investments, including with our Canada Child Benefit, which, by the way, is $6 million a month going into the riding of Pickering-Uxbridge. That's real money that is helping families and helping our communities, and as a result, a typical Canadian family is $2,000 better off. That's why I ran in 2006, and this is why I run again today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, thank you to each of you for your comments. We appreciate your personal commitment to the economic and social well-being of your country and this community. So let's move to the questions. A gentle reminder, there will be one response per candidate, and that response will be 1 minute per candidate. And Sam will signal the 10-second mark with a yellow card and the response end by a red card. So we'll go in alphabetical order, and this time we'll start by candidates with Jennifer O'Connell and then move down this way. Question number 1, and this question has been prepared by the Durham Region Association of Realtors and is relevant to many of our employees and the entrepreneurs in our community. First-time home buyers tax credit is a non-refundable tax credit available to Canadians purchasing their first home. If elected, would you support the Canadian Real Estate Association's recommendations to increase the $750 non-refundable tax credit to a $2,500 non-refundable tax credit for qualifying home buyers for the first-time home buyers? And Jennifer, would you start us?
Sure, thank you. In terms of our first-time homebuyers incentive, this was an important initiative that we found, especially again, looking at the file of youth economic opportunity, young people were being not able to access the housing market. And this is actually an investment to not only spur new growth, a new product, but it's actually an opportunity for young people to be able to access a quality home and be able to have more money in their pockets every single month, because the equity investment is only paid back at the time of the sale of the product. So I feel that it is the important thing for our government and communities to be investing to ensure that people, unlike Mr. Scheer's announcement recently, to only allow for young people to take on more debt and over a longer period of time. Household indebtedness is one of the biggest risks to our economy. So I support investments in ensuring young people have access to the housing market, but ensuring that they are not over indebted in case of the economy changing.
Thank you. Moving along to Saima.
Our party's platform is all about affordability. We just rolled out our policy plank on affordable housing, and we are going to be readjusting this mortgage stress test so that more and more young families can afford a home. We will be increasing amortization to 30 years. So again, it will be much easier for families to pay their monthly installments, which will be a lot easier to pay because it will be a lot smaller amount of money they have to pay. There will be more federal land available for developers to meet the need of more housing. And there will be strict checks on money laundering. So our housing plan is the plan to help the families to move ahead and to afford the housing, which it is a dream for every family. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Eileen.
Yes, housing in the NDP platform is that we will increase the foreign tax for home buyer. Their tax will go up, and hopefully it will decrease some of the market's bubble and bring it down to starting from crazy prices. The other thing that the NDP will do is build 500,000 new homes over the next 10 years. These are affordable homes. These are homes that will be available to partnering with all levels of government. Those are the two big things that I really like about the platform.
Thank you. Moving on to Peter.
If I recall, the specific question was about changing the tax credit from $750 to $2,500. If getting $2,500 versus $750 is enough for you to buy a home, you can't afford that home. Let's be frank about it. I would much rather see us look at regulations to make those houses more energy efficient so that it lowers your monthly bill for utilities for heating and air conditioning. If you put an extra $1,500 into your house in terms of installation, better furnace, better smart home technology for heating and cooling, you will save way more money every year than that difference between $750 and $2,500. So that makes no sense.
Thank you. Moving on to Cornelio.
Thank you very much. Affordable housing is a problem, and is a problem that we cannot neglect it. So I am in favor of increasing to $2,500 the first-time buyers incentives. So we need to, however, to look for the affordability, and that is must made with the Real Estate Association, the Superintendent of Financial Institution, and so on. $2,500 is not an immense amount of money for our people, and I prefer to spend the people for Canadians than to waste money overseas. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving to the Ajax candidates, Susanna.
Thank you. It's like the other colleagues have said, $2,500 in your pocket is always nice, but it's not going to allow you to have a new home. I think you have to understand that we have to create a housing situation where anyone wanting a house can buy a house, not just the young people who also want to buy homes, but everybody. So our programs are designed to do that because more money would be in your pocket to do so. But also, having said that, it usually seems to come up every 4 years when there's an election. And 25% of the cost of new home construction in this day and age is actually all red tape. So maybe that needs to be needs a lot of attention before you can actually do anything to increase the housing in this country. Because if you can not only get rid of government intervention in your personal life, in income taxes or whatever, but also in business, you can do a lot to create housing when it's needed, every year, not just every 4 years.
Thank you. And Shokat?
Thank you. We are in the favor of more and more Canadians become homeowners. And we are proposing 500,000 affordable houses. By having said that, NDP is planning that there should be incentives given to the first-time home buyers. And as some of my colleagues have said, that making a difference from $750 to $2,500 is not going to make much of a difference. However, more affordable housing is required, and we are increasing the amortization period to 30 years. That will also allow some room for those people who cannot afford a house by paying those flexible payments. And NDP is in the favor of making houses more affordable and making homes available to all Canadians that are renters.
Thank you. And moving to Mark.
Thank you so much. Well, Jennifer spoke to the incentives that we put in place to help first-time home buyers, but I think the stress test is incredibly important. I stand behind it because when we take a look at the situation that exists, if we wind up in a situation where people are over-leveraged and where the housing market gets overheated and people are able to borrow money in a circumstance that is unsustainable if the economy goes the other way, that is incredibly perilous to our economy. So yes, of course, we have to help young people buy a home, but we can't do it in such a way that imperils our economy overall. So it has to be responsible, and that's why the stress test is important. And I would point out that the retrofit program that we have for homes, because I think Peter is 100% right, reducing costs, reducing energy is a way that we can not only make things more affordable, but do our part to fight climate change.
Thank you. And Tom.
Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to clarify, I believe my Liberal friend from Pickering mentioned that they're concerned about taking on too much debt. Our government has taken on an extreme amount of debt, and it is, in fact, the stress test that has made it next to impossible for our children to ever get into this housing market. We are committed to working with CREA. CREA asked for common sense solutions. President Jason Stephen acknowledged that the Conservative plan has actually listened and implemented suggestions, common sense suggestions that realtors have asked for. We will continue to work with the experts in the field. We have lenders that understand risk and assess risk, and they don't need a stress test to help them do that. We are committed to reworking the stress test for new home buyers, extending the mortgage terms amortization to 30 years to allow people an opportunity to have a home in Canada. Your children deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you. So question number 2, and we're going to start with Tom. This question was provided by the Durham Home Builders Association and the Durham Region Association of Realtors. The Canadian Home Builders Association has been calling on all federal parties and candidates to help unlock the door to home ownership for Canadians. Federal mortgage rules have made it much harder for tens of thousands of younger and new Canadians to access the market, home ownership housing in our region and across Canada. So this includes both the stress test and the limit on the mortgage amortizations to 25 years. Young first-time buyers are the most impacted by changes to mortgage rules, especially those on insured mortgages. Extending the length of a mortgage improves affordability by reducing the size of the monthly payments. Data from Equifax shows that the young Canadians represent the lowest risk in terms of mortgage arrears. Also, data provided by the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation reveals that returning to a 30-year insured mortgage for the first-time buyers would only have a minimal impact of 1 to 2.4% increase to prices. If elected, would your party commit to adopting the CHBA's recommendation to introduce 30-year amortizations for insured mortgages taken on by well-qualified buyers? Tom.
I'm very proud of the fact that we've already committed to this. We have committed to reworking the stress test for entry-level people buying or trying to get into the housing market and removing the stress test on mortgage renewals. This is important. Forcing people to stay with their own lender or have to redo the stress test puts them in a situation where the bank has an advantage and can offer them higher rates, and they are more likely to stay rather than go through the process of the stress test. By removing the stress test on renewals, it will allow people to shop and get the best possible mortgage rate that they can get and make monthly payments more affordable. We absolutely have to do everything we can to make life more affordable. Under the Liberal government, life has become more expensive. I've talked to thousands of people at the doors, and they paint a rosy picture with some of their statistics, but until you're actually talking to people, you don't know them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark?
Well, thank you. I did respond to the fact, and I'll just say it briefly again, that things like stress tests and rules that governments put in place to ensure that you don't wind up with an overheated market that creates a situation that has a bubble that then bursts and that has incredibly damaging economic consequences are things that we're very concerned about. Making sure that the housing market doesn't grow at such a pace, not only that it pushes people out, but that it has action that is severe and would have dramatic economic consequences. So I think making sure that the level of indebtedness is appropriate to where individuals' incomes are is incredibly important, and that's why our help for first-time home buyers is on the other end of the spectrum, with helping them with things like a down payment and helping them with things about getting them into the market without putting them in a situation where they're over-leveraged. The only other point I'll make, just a fact. In Ajax, the average family, $2,000 better off as a result of both income tax cuts and the Canada Child Fund.
Thank you. And Showkat?
Thank you. Well, we are in favor of the 30-year amortization because that will provide the flexibility to the homeowners paying their debts at a longer period of time and with the easy installments. In addition, the stress test is also one of the measures that has already been taken to make sure that the market doesn't become overheated and the person who has been given that loan has the financial ability to pay it off. So those things may be there. However, the 30-year amortization should be a test or should be accommodated in order to provide them the flexibility that they should have. Also, it will open doors to the new home buyers in terms of not making the market overheated.
And Susanna?
As stated before, we don't actually have a housing policy per se yet. We're working on one, but on a personal level, and on a party level, we're actually in favor of creating a situation where people have more money in their pocket and are responsible for their own decisions so that they can decide what level of debt they can live with. And if that means that they're going to have the choice of having a mortgage paid over 25 years or 30 years, that's up to them. So that's just a personal view of myself. As far as the mortgage stress test goes, I think that if you're going to keep it, it needs to be amended in order to make it easier for anyone to be able to buy a home, not just the first-time buyers.
And moving to the Pickering candidates, Cornelia.
Thank you very much. The stress test is an important issue, and I think the stress test should be in place, because if you are looking at the debt as a percentage of disposable income, remain highs in Canada around 178%, but mortgage delinquency rates remain extremely low, about 0.18% because of sound regulation. However, the mortgage extension from 25 years to 30 years should be extended, because if you are looking at now the bank rates are very low, but if you are looking at the increase on the bank the prime rate, that will create a problem for the buyers. So 30 years is feasible and should stay for my opinion and our party opinion.
Thank you. Moving to Peter.
Thank you. We have to be careful here of unintended consequences. Okay, extending amortization rates just means we buy a bigger house, right? If we think about what's happened in the car market, 8-year loans now for cars. Okay, how long are we going to extend the loans for houses? It's a big issue. Now, what we should be looking at is the stress test. When we say it's a qualified buyer, but they're insured, why do we have to insure them if they're qualified? Okay, good question there. If they're properly qualified, they can afford the house without the insurance. All we're doing here is taking the risk of default and putting it on the taxpayers, not on the person getting the mortgage themselves. I don't think it's a good idea.
Moving to Eileen.
Yes, the NDP, as stated prior, is in favour of a 30-year mortgage. If I understood the question right, it said that buying a home was a right. Buying a home is not, in my opinion, a right if people can afford the home. And when did it come necessary to go to school, have a home, and then have a baby? We have to do things realistically with the money we're earning and move forward on that base. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Saima?
Conservative Party's main platform is based on affordability to help young families, middle-class families. So relaxing the mortgage stress test and readjusting it will help a lot of young families to afford a home. Ownership of the home always put more responsibility on their shoulders, and at the same time, the joy of having and owning a home comes with it. Mortgage stress test has to be adjusted, and we totally support that. Our party is very clear on that. Amortization is going to be increased for 30 years. That's again going to make life a lot easier to make the mortgage payment per month. And money laundering is also going to be looked at very, very, very strictly so that there is no money wasted or inflates the market. And there will be more federal land available for developers to develop and meet the need of the supply for the housing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Jennifer?
Thank you. What's interesting about the conversation around the 30-year amortization was that it was actually, in fact, a policy put in place by Jim Flaherty and the Conservatives after the housing crisis in the U.S. And this was seen by many, including economists, that simply increasing one's ability to take on more debt does not provide a more stable economy. So the Conservative Party today has completely abandoned that policy. And you know who else agrees with the idea of a stress test and not increasing amortization rates is the Bank of Canada, who looks at these measures, who determines the affordability, the room within the economy, and frankly determines interest rates. And the Bank of Canada has stated how worried they are in terms of extending household indebtedness by Canadians puts us at a risk in our economy. So in order to deal with housing prices and affordability, it is better to make investments into Canadians and families to help them to ensure that they can afford the house that they purchase.
Thank you. So, question number 3, and we'll be asking Jennifer to respond first. And this question has been provided by local chambers and boards of trade. And as you know, it's about the federal airport lands. It's pretty important to us. Land was set aside in West Durham in 1972 by the Liberal government for the development of an airport, a plan that has been reflected in the Durham Regional Plan and in local community strategies and plans. Since that time, the possibility of an airport has been reviewed, considered, and studied, with no final position being taken. To address the air and space capacity issues with Toronto Pearson Airport and to prepare for a continued GTHA residential and business growth, it is time for a decision to be made and plans for a Toronto East Airport in Pickering to be undertaken. What is your party's position on the development of these federally held lands? Jennifer?
Thank you. Our party's position and my position has been that there isn't a business case that exists for the development of a Pickering airport. Recently, the government has commissioned the KPMG study to look at the aviation sector analysis for the entire GTHA, and we are awaiting the department's analysis of this study. However, there has been a huge economic loss since the expropriation of these lands in our community. And one of the things I'm really proud to have worked for is since expropriation, these lands had a year-to-year lease for agriculture. There has not been an ability for investment in these lands. But I was really proud that our government extended the agricultural leases for 10 years, starting in 2018. This is important to ensure that we have agriculture development and an opportunity for our region to become leaders in the ability for agriculture and economic development, something that Dominic Barton and the Advisory Council for Economic Growth for this country recognize that agriculture is a huge opportunity for this country to prosper, and I think in Durham Region, we should be leaders.
Thank you. And Saima?
This is a very important issue for Pickering-Uxbridge, actually for the whole Durham region. As a businesswoman, I understand how important it is to bring jobs and to create an economic stimulus in the area. Pickering-Uxbridge is a growing community and it's in transition. And I totally support any kind of development coming forward because we need it. There is a big need for it. Pickering-Uxbridge will benefit hugely, not just Pickering-Uxbridge, whole of Durham. If there is a big project like airport is proposed, it's actually been going on for 45 years. The land was expropriated by the federal government. And a lot of debates and a lot of studies have been conducted on this issue. I have attended a lot of studies on this in Toronto too, but I think Pickering would benefit, the whole region will benefit by bringing airport here, and I think airport would be hugely beneficial for the region, and I would fully support it.
Thank you. And moving on to Eileen.
I've been here before, and no, I haven't changed my mind. I'm not in support of the airport. I am in support of the Landover Landings agricultural support. There is no airport in Canada that is not subsidized by the taxpayer. And this parent proposal has, as is any other previous thing, has never had a business plan. Now, in this business plan, it says it's behind closed doors. We're not telling who the investors are going to be. It's going to be foreign investors. And look at we're concerned about the foreign investors, and we're going to have foreign investors come in here and do our airport. Like, shut up, put up or shut up is what I say. It takes one seat. If I got on the plane in Glasgow, in Toronto, and got off in Glasgow, I melt, personally, 3 cubic feet of Arctic ice. Now that's not just a wee bit of my phone. 3 cubic feet is 3 cubic feet, and you know more than I do about that.
Thank you. And moving on to Peter.
All right. Those airport lands are an unintended benefit, unintended consequence of decisions made almost 50 years ago. An airport is a 20th century solution. We need 21st century solutions to the problems. We do not support the airport. Canada does not need an airport. The world does not need another airport. What Canada and this region needs is a high-speed electric rail system from Windsor to Quebec City. You do that, and we eliminate the need for many flights between those cities. Now, I don't have enough time to explain it all. Go home, Google it right now on your phone. High-speed train, Spain, and look at the economic benefits on every town along the routes. Spain as a whole has benefited, Europe as a whole has benefited, and the environment has benefited by putting high-speed trains in instead of another airport.
Thank you. And Cornelio.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I don't change my statement, which I made in 2015. We need, and I'm standing for an airport in Pickering. We have land, we have 3 times now, I gave a quarter of the land to the Rouge Park, but we have 3 times more than the city of Mississauga, where is Pearson Airport. So the benefit of Mississauga is $22 million a year for payment in lieu of taxes. In Pickering, we have 900,000, close $1 million. So we need jobs for the Durham region. The infrastructure deficit between the west and east GTA is 10-1. So we need jobs, and we need the airport will bring jobs in our region. So I'm standing firm, and I will fight for having this airport built and not making only studies who are not doing and then not giving anything, only studies, studies, and studies.
Thank you, Cornelia. And the Ajax, Susanna?
Thank you. What do you do with the federally held lands? Well, that's a great question, because that's a prime example. Having said, what is on?
Yeah, still it.
Having heard that they have now extended the leases for agriculture in those lands for the next 10 years should tell you that there's probably not a plan in place to build an airport. And you have to wonder what it is that they're actually going to be doing with that land. So I stand firm with Cornelius. Absolutely build the airport. Do it now. Create the jobs. Increase the tax revenue for the area. And it's a prime example of what's been happening over the past 4 years with the current situation in the federal government, where they intervene, they create studies, they waste money, and they get nothing. And the problem with that is that you get nothing. And it's your money that they're wasting. So yes, do something and do it now. Absolutely.
Thank you. And Shokat?
Thank you. Well, transportation is a key factor in the operation of the businesses. And looking at the federally held lands, making the airport, particularly in the Pickering and Ajax area, will certainly bring more and more jobs and will give the economic growth to the area we are looking at. And certainly it will benefit the entire town of Ajax as well as the residents of Pickering. And it will be a wonderful idea to having that airport in here that will provide businesses to flourish, and we'll be having the opportunity to create more and more jobs.
Thank you. And Mark?
Thank you very much. Well, the responsible thing was done, which was to go to KPMG and ask for a study that finally looked at transportation needs for the entire GTHA. And ask how those are going to be integrated and work with not only movement inside the region, but to other regions, and to do that at an arm's length. And the person overseeing that process is Mark Garneau. He's the former head of the Canadian Space Agency. He's somebody who's focused on data, but you don't go and spend billions of dollars without a plan of how it's going to work or how it's going to integrate with the other components. So that was absolutely essential. That's not being irresponsible, that's being wholly responsible, because how those internodal systems work, how passenger travel work, how all of those different components fit together is something that has to be understood, including all of the other available options, whether or not that's high-speed rail or whether or not that's other modes of transportation. So I think that we should all wait, because the study is imminently being given. And once that is there, that provides a roadmap for transportation, not just dealing with this airport, but dealing with the issue overall.
Thank you. And Tom?
Thank you. I would like to say what is irresponsible in my mind is giving out 10-year leases to lock up this land when we have an outstanding report that has been commissioned by the very people that are giving out these 10-year leases. If that report says that an airport is viable and will bring thousands of jobs to Ajax and Pickering and bring good paying jobs, big business to this area, and they are locking up that land, forcing us to break contracts and pay millions, if not tens of millions of dollars to get out of those leases, that is incredibly irresponsible. They're sitting on a report. Only they know if they have it or not. And right now, we're being asked to make evidence-based decisions with half the evidence. Why are we not being provided with that information so that we can take a good look at this and make sure that we are making evidence-based decisions? If it will bring jobs, I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So this is the fourth question, and again, it's from really from the 8 Durham Joint Chambers and Boards of Trade. And we advocate for over 3,000 business members in Durham, and we're representing one of Canada's fastest growing regions with immense economic and social change. To encourage and continue strong economic growth, our position is that the federal government must prioritize a response to skilled trade, that there must be investment in high-speed connectivity throughout the entire Durham region and other rural pockets, that the government must provide strong trade support on tariff barriers with our major trading partners, including the U.S., and that the federal government must reassess the outdated federal tax system to establish an updated and fair tax system. So those are the points that we're considering as a Board of Trade and Chambers of Commerce based on our recent surveys with our membership. So would you briefly describe what is your party's plan to respond to these needs? And we're going to give them a minute and a half for this, okay? Starting with Tom. Yes, so here are the issues. Federal government must prioritize a response to skilled trade shortage. There must be an investment in high-speed connectivity throughout the entire of Durham region and other rural pockets. The government must provide strong trade support on tariff barriers with our major trading partners, including the U.S., and the federal government must reassess the outdated federal tax system to an established, updated, and fair tax system. So I know that's a lot to chew off, but this is our last question because we are going to be done at 9:30. So those are our major concerns. Would you like to speak to one or all of those? Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you
Starting
so much.
now.
I believe part of that question referred to skilled trades and the shortage of skilled trades. We have, right now, we have a lot of young people wanting to enter our skilled trades programs. In fact, we have more people wanting to enter the program than we have capacity. In Whitby, we have Durham College Skilled Trades program, and they are wanting to expand. They have a plan to expand to bring over 700 new students to that campus. The region, the province, and the federal government agreed to support that, and the only person who backed out of that funding was the federal Liberals, who did not provide the $10 million that they promised to help bring skilled labor to our workforce. I believe there was another part of broadband. Was that
yes,
in there as well?
Yeah.
Broadband was an issue that the Liberals brought in, CTI, Connect to Innovate, and that program was supposed to be the last stage to bring broadband to areas of our region. The problem is they made the process so complex that the region couldn't get their applications in and partner with a service provider in time, and therefore no funding came to Durham region for broadband. And in fact, as of, I believe it was April of 2018, not one program in the GTA was funded through that program. We will get it done. We will bring broadband to our business areas and to our rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Mark.
Thank you. There's a lot of issues there. I would say on trades and skills generally. Skills, the program that we brought in to help Canadians upgrade their skills by providing dollars that carry forward every year if you're not used is essential, because all of us are going to have to keep updating our skills regardless of what we do. On tariffs and trade, Jennifer said, I think it bears mentioning that we're the only G7 country that has a trade deal with every other G7 country. We've worked hard to implement CETA. We worked hard to make sure that we got NAFTA right, which represents $2.3 billion in daily trade between the two countries. In terms of high-speed connectivity, we are seeing the entire country finally being lit up with, in fact, Minister Baines was just here a couple of days ago talking about the plan to make sure that that's brought out to the entire country so that every inch of this country is connected. And then I would say, in terms of the federal taxation system, we have a progressive tax system that's important to maintain. We reduce taxes for small businesses, and in terms of individual taxes, we cut taxes for the middle class.
Thank you. And moving on to Shokhat.
Thank you. Well, in terms of the outdated tax system, we are in favor of that, that there should be a reassessment of taxes for all these small businesses, medium-sized businesses. That will also allow the businesses to operate and flourish freely. In addition to that, as far as a skilled trade program in the region of Durham is concerned, we are in support of that. The skilled people should be given more opportunities to have facilities where they can have those skills and competence training. Federal government should also fund additionally for those programs, so that will certainly be a good idea for the region of Durham in order to have the sustainability of businesses by reassessment of those taxes.
Thank you. Moving on to Susanna.
It's a loaded question, and I'm glad you asked it, because all of the People's Party of Canada policies align with that question. They all work very well together. So on the tariffs, Our policies are to eliminate interprovincial barriers and work with our ally to the south to increase economic viability for all across Canada and for all Canadians. And in terms of the skilled labor shortage, we encourage immigration where skilled labor is allowed into the country and benefits Canadians and the economy. In terms of broadband, we have programs in place for taxes for corporations and for reducing the amortization of capital expenses to corporations and writing them off faster, which increases your cash flow to allow companies to expand on a far better basis than it is now, especially. In terms of tax system, we want to lower corporate tax, farm tax, and eliminate capital gains tax. We only want 2 income tax rates, which benefits Canadians on the whole. And all of those programs together work to create a situation, an environment where the economy creates the job. So you're not going to put $10 million into one program to create 100 jobs for a few people. We're going to put policies in place which create an economy for jobs to be created across the entire country.
Thank you. And moving to Cornelio.
Thank you very much. It's a great question. Regarding the skilled trade, mostly it is not necessarily a federal responsibility. That is a responsibility of the unions and the school system to make trades, skills available in this country. On the transportation issue, we need a transportation hub in the Durham region, which is possible by an airport, by 407 developing the deep port in Oshawa, and you have also the 407. So we need this one for economic development, the hub, transportation hub. In the trade support, if you are looking at the trade, the internal trade is a problem. The Canadian Journal of Economics concluded that interprovincial trade barriers cost Canadians roughly $100 billion in lost economic opportunities. This is equivalent to a staggering $7,500 per household every year. The People's Party will reassert the authority and leadership of the federal government on internal trade. Use Section 91.2 of the Constitution, which gives Ottawa exclusive power to regulate matters on international and interprovincial trade, to force provinces to apply the principle of mutual recognition where applicable. And on the tax system, we are for a fair and simplified tax system, which is not creating problems for small businesses.
Thank you. If you can pass it to Peter, thank you.
Thank you. That's the kind of question my students hate. It was a multi-part question. You had at least 4 or 5 in there. So I'm going to address 3 of them. You asked about skilled trades, you asked about high-speed connectivity, and also about the tax system. There hasn't been a federal tax commission since the 1960s. We need one, and our party supports getting an arm's-length system in place right now as soon as possible. All right. Regarding high-speed broadband access, we've got this thing called 5G coming. 5G is a quite different technology. 5G requires antennas every 150 feet or so. All right. I think that's a natural monopoly, and we've got to get our publicly owned utilities putting that together. Imagine here in our area if Viridian can build high-speed internet to every place where they delivered electricity, we would have broadband everywhere. It's also a national issue because Huawei's in the news for security. I do not feel comfortable having Huawei build the backbone of our next generation telecommunications. I do not feel comfortable that way. And finally, on skilled trades, it's funny that question was asked because Peter, Beth, and Falvey and I were just talking about that in the lobby before coming in. When we were in school, we had shop class and home economic classes in grade 7 and 8. You can't convince an 18-year-old who's grown up on a cell phone that all of a sudden it's time to go into trades, all right? Now, we all have friends that are in the trades. They're people who have autonomy, they have mastery of a craft, and they have purpose in their work. All those jobs are local jobs. We need to do everything we can to start building skilled trades back into our culture, starting in grade 7.
Thank you. Eileen?
Yes, I graduated as a nurse and midwife with no debt, and that was in Scotland, not in Canada. And I would really, the NDP party is really wanting to finance and get our young people educated. We have to work together with all 3 levels of government to do this. And the NDP government is the best government to do that, to be able to sit down and massage and navigate the issues. The tariffs on the border, it's very different having a president that they have in America right now to know which way you're going. Is like a rattlesnake cut up in several different places going in all kinds of different directions. But having said that, we have to be firm in what we want and look forward to what our real goal is as we do that. And update the tax system, yes, the NDP are for that, definitely. We need to update the tax system. But essential in all of this is all 3 levels of government working with you, the employer, to find out what your needs are, and the educators. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving to Saima.
I am a businesswoman in a construction world, so I understand how important skilled workers are. I deal with them day to day, and they are the backbone of all my projects. Our government totally understands that. That's why there is a commitment in our policy platform that there will be a federal transfer of 3% increase every year for education. And that money is going to be given to the trade schools like Durham College, which will help train more people in the skilled trade. And the second question was about broadband. Our party will make it a priority that CRTC should revise their band tenders so that smaller servers can also bid on rural areas. So far, there's just a monopoly of Bell or Rogers, and they just focus on the urban areas, and I think we should encourage that smaller service be allowed to provide the service in rural parts of our region too. And federal taxes on small businesses under our platform will be reduced. 25% of the red tape will be reduced, so it will make more fertile area for all the businesses, and especially small businesses, to flourish and to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jennifer.
Thank you. I'll start with broadband. It's not just a rural issue. It's an issue that we experience in urban Pickering, in all across this region. Our party is actually the only party that's put forward a concrete plan. I've heard others say they want to do something. We have a plan to have 95% of all Canadians connected to broadband by 2021, and the remaining 100% of Canadians connected by 2030. How we're doing this is we're leveraging a $3 billion investment. That's investments through CRTC, Connect to Innovate, an investment with the Canada Infrastructure Bank, in addition to regulation changes. In Budget 2019, we changed regulations to allow for low orbit satellite, something that bringing new technology, new competition to broadband in our communities and in this country. So our government is taking this extremely seriously, put forward real targets and real investments. In regards to trade barriers, we have talked about some of the international. In terms of internal, Budget 2019 removed the remaining federal regulations that provided internal trade barriers, interprovincial trade barriers. And we've established a committee with the Minister of Finance and his counterparts across the country to remove the remaining provincial barriers, something that we need to come together as a country on because it is a huge economic loss, but we removed those regulations in Budget 2019.
Thank you. So that's the end of our questions. At this point, we're going to have concluding remarks. And we have time for each of you to have 2 minutes to summarize why you and your party are the best choice on federal election day. And we will start with Jennifer.
Thank you. Well, this was an interesting discussion, and I appreciate all members being here and for all of you attending. It's no doubt that this region has huge economic potential and growth potential, and it is our time. For too long, Durham Region has been passed over by governments, and it is so important that we put in place procedures and investments that are going to help grow our economy, are going to lift people out of poverty. As Mark said early on, our government in 4 years has lifted 825,000 people out of poverty, 300,000 being children. We are focused on investments that grow the economy, which have helped create 1.1 million jobs in 4 years. And these are the types of investments I'm going to continue to fight for. We need good quality jobs. The world of work is changing, and we need a government that can keep up. We didn't have much chance to talk about youth employment, but in the area of youth economic opportunities, Durham Region is ripe to be leaders in technology and to allow our young people to actually be able to afford to stay here and live here and not have to move out of our community to find a good job. These are the sorts of investments, the sorts of vision that we need in this country, that we need in this region. And it's something I've been fighting for a long time, and it's something that our government is committed to. And without making these investments, what you see is the wealthiest 1% continue to get ahead, while so many people are left behind. Young people are left with enormous amounts of debt, without job opportunities and access to housing. This is something our government is committed to fighting and to making the investments that will continue to see our economy grow and work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving to Saima.
Well, under our Conservative government, we will make sure that we live within our means, and so that you and your kids can get ahead in life. Our whole policy plank is not out yet, but what we have so far is all about helping families, especially the middle class and the lower middle class families, to get ahead. We're going to get rid of the GST from your heating bill. We're going to make sure that seniors in winter, they don't have to choose between heating or eating. We will going to scrap the carbon tax, so your day-to-day living, your groceries are going to come down. We're going to have a federal transfer, 3% increase each year for health, for education, for core services, for social services. We're going to give $1,000 per child, per family, or after-school activities. If they want to go for tennis lessons, they want to go for piano lessons, so every child can benefit, every family can benefit for that. RESPs are going to be boosted from $500 to $750. Universal tax credit, each family can benefit $850 per year. $1.5 billion spent on diagnostic testing, so you don't have to wait, God forbid, for a MRI, for a CT scan, for a PET scan. Our seniors, their GIS is going to be boosted. Their income tax on their pension is going to be reduced so that they can lead a more dignified and a very comfortable lives. So as I mentioned, prosperity only happens when government gets out of the way and you decide how you want to spend your money. We are going to work for an honest government, tax break for the families, infrastructure for the communities, and prudent finances and lower deficits. So it's time for you and for us to get ahead together.
Thank you, Saima. And Eileen?
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's lovely, and it's an excellent opportunity to tell you about what the NDP can do for you and our community here in Pickering and Uxbridge. Time and time again, the Liberal and Conservative governments have consistently broken my trust. I cannot offer my grandchildren the same quality of life that I have had. The death of the fishery on the east and west coasts, climate change, the Airbus scandal, the sponsorship scandal. Justin Trudeau promised he would do government differently. I see no change. 40% of Canada is in the Arctic Circle. We are melting. We must stand for a radically different approach to our global climate crisis, stand tall against the fear-mongering. When we believe in change and commit to a wholehearted effort, we will be able to achieve incredible things together. Look at healthcare in this country, the pension index, tax reform, the Constitution of Canada. All these came about from a minority government with an NDP. NDP governments across this country have always been fiscally responsible. Stop the fear-mongering about, oh, they're going to spend you out of house and home. To spend money is investing in you and is investing in our families and investing in our businesses. We owe it to our children and grandchildren to change our approach from open for business to taking an honest assessment of what is working and what is not. On October 23rd, elect Eileen Higdon, your Member of Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving to Peter.
All right. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to the different ideas proposed to you up front. I think we'd all agree that you heard some ideas, good ideas, from all 9 people up here. All right. Now, one of the reasons I'm running is when earlier this year, when a few scandals came up, it looked evident that it would be a minority party. Wouldn't it be nice this time to vote for the people and the teams that you think have the best ideas for you, rather than voting against the people you hate the most? All right. When Elizabeth May talks about a minority government, she doesn't talk about balance of power. She talks about balance of responsibility. I think all 9 people up here have some responsibility and some good ideas. Now, as a business person, I chose the Green Party because we're willing to look for common ground. It's amazing how much you can get done when you look for common ground and you don't care who takes the credit. CEOs have said that. Winning coaches for sports teams have said that. All right. The other thing, too, that makes the Green Party different is we're the only one whose members are not whipped. We don't have to kowtow to our leaders. We are encouraged to think. We are encouraged to bring different perspectives. So as your MP, I can bring the perspectives of this area forward, even if that's not exactly what my party leader wants me to say. Now, how are we going to do all of this? It's going to be tough. When I was in tech sector, we had a phrase called loosely coupled but tightly integrated. Each policy in and of itself can do well, but when you tie them all together, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, there's a multiplier effect. We have to work at the federal level, at the provincial level, and the municipal level to get that multiplier effect. Vote Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And Cornelio?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is about who has the genuine interest of Canadians at heart in keeping our economy strong and Canada safe. I passionately care about Canada's future because I know that the free market philosophy has the best solution to ensure our society is more prosperous, secure, and peaceful. We know that beyond our shores, the global economy remains in a state of turmoil. So what is the choice today, ladies and gentlemen? At People's Party, we choose lower taxes and balanced budget. We choose trade and growth and jobs. We choose to put honest, law-abiding citizens and victims ahead of criminals. We choose to take a strong stand in the world based on our values, based on our interest, based on standing by our friends and standing up against those who threaten them and us. People's parties that stand fast for our country, our values, and freedom of speech, where Canadians work hard, confident that their families will be safe and their children will have the best possible opportunities in life. We are here not to buy votes, we are here to earn your vote. This future is taking shape before us, and we will not rest until our job is done. Vote for your values and principles. Vote for what you believe in. Choose the principled alternative, the People's Party. The other political parties today are embarked on ships steadily drifting towards the globalist wonderland. On October 21st, I ask for your support so together we can build the best country in the world and the best constituency in Canada, Pickering-Uxbridge. Let freedom, responsibility, fairness, and respect rule again. God bless and thank you.
And now Susanna.
Thank you to the Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade, to the Durham Region Association of Realtors, and to the Durham Region Home Builders Association for hosting this event. The People's Party of Canada platform is exactly what all Canadians have been waiting for, because we're actually discussing issues which all Canadians want to hear about, like reducing immigration levels, and tackling the United Nations Global Compact for Migration, ending official multiculturalism, and preserving Canadian values, eliminating corporate welfare, and preserving Canadian values and freedoms, yes. We want to reduce and reform equalization, abolish developmental aid to foreign countries, and put Canadians first. Phasing out supply management, lowering taxes for individuals, corporations, and farms, and, to quote Maxime, we will build pipelines the same way in which we've built this party. We will eliminate the capital gains tax, and the carbon tax too. Basically, we will get out of your way. Revenues collected in Canada will stay in Canada, and will put Canadians first. As I stated in my opening statement, I am not a career politician, but I am one of you, and I'm fighting for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Shokat?
Thank you so much. I owe a great deal of thanks to the Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade, and I extend my thanks to the Home Builders Association as well as to the Durham Association of Realtors for organizing this event. In addition to what I have already stated in the beginning, NDP need to help the small and medium-sized businesses and dealing with the taxes, increase of tax or lowering the tax for small or medium-sized businesses is not the solution. What NDP has come up with for paying the benefits of the employees. When we look at the employee-employer relationship, the employer is the one person who pays the benefits that take a chunk of his income and the revenues. NDP is planning that those benefits should be paid by the universal dental care and pharmacare. I totally agree with my colleague Eileen as well that Liberals have failed to deliver their promises while they were ruling. If Liberals still believe that they have made life affordable for all Canadians, then we must ask Liberals that if that is true, then how come more and more students are still struggling to pay for their tuitions, and there are more and more Canadians going under debt, and why most of the people are unable to buy their first homes. So dear friends, NDP works for all Canadians, and it believes that these programs through the proposal of the pharmacare and dental care will certainly help all Canadians, and nobody is forced to choose between the health and paying their rent. So vote NDP. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving to Mark.
Thank you so much. You know, I've had the opportunity to do a number of different roles in my life, whether or not I was working for CIBC or RBC Dominion Securities, the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration. I was the Executive Director of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. I've been Parliamentary Secretary. I've been a critic in opposition. And of course now I'm the Chief Government Whip for our party, working to bring people together. But the job that I love, that keeps bringing me back to do this, is representing my home community. When I walked into a campaign office when I was 12, the idea that I could make a difference in the community around me through volunteering and being involved was something huge. And it's a tremendous privilege that I never take for granted. And I get a lot of people, because I've run 10 times in 10 elections, it's just hard to believe, but it's been a lot. I get a lot of people come and say, I'm interested in getting involved in politics. And I hope you hold me to the same standard that I give to other people in terms of the advice that I give them, which is if you want to represent people, it's not about making promises. It's about earning it. Going out there and fighting alongside your neighbors, taking on issues that they care about, volunteering, getting involved. It's about keeping your word. It's about when you make a commitment, you follow through with it. It means when you have values, you stick with them, not just because it's inconvenient, but sometimes especially because it's hard. That's the standard I hope you hold me to. That's the spirit with which I fought to represent our community since I was first elected in 1997. And it's what you can count on from me every day that I continue to represent you. Hopefully on the 21st of October, I can count on your support so I can keep fighting for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks very much, everybody. As I said, I bring a different perspective than anyone else at this table. See, I've worked with people suffering mental health crisis. I've worked with people suffering opioid addiction, homelessness, elder abuse, and domestic violence. When people talk about policy, they're talking about things they've read about. Wouldn't it be nice to have somebody at the table that actually understands the real-life consequences of those decisions? That's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for everybody in Durham Region. I'm fighting for everybody in Ajax. I'm fighting for people in Canada that don't have a voice. But my friend said it's not about making promises. I think it's about keeping them. Now, they've had a majority government, which means that any promise that they broke, they did so by choice. I really want that to sink in. If they didn't fulfill a promise, they did so by choice. They could have pushed through anything they wanted to and actually kept these promises. They promised pharmacare in 2015 and again now in 19. They promised electoral reform. They promised to be transparent and ethical. And they promised to respect seniors, Indigenous people, veterans, and women. They did not keep their promise. That is what this is about. I'll give you one example that really bothers me in priorities. They spent $5.6 million on a skating rink. That would have housed 333 families in Durham Region for an entire year. They spent $200,000 on a rubber duck. A rubber duck that could have housed 14 single people in Durham Region for an entire year. And they promised us $327 million in gang and gun funding in 2017, and they didn't release a single dime. Not a dime while people were being shot. That is what I'm fighting to fix. We need to keep our promises. We need to be respectful of the people of Ajax, the people of Canada. Cutting the transit tax credit, the child sports credit, the education credit is not fighting for Ajax. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you to each of you. We appreciate the personal time that each of you have taken this morning and throughout this campaign, and we appreciate your commitment. We want to thank the Ajax-Pickering Board of Trade for organizing this, and to you, the audience, thank you for joining us this morning. As we look at the challenges that Canada faces in the world trade and internally as we work to retain and build our economic growth, we need good leadership and strength at the table leading our Canadian government. You have our commitment that the Board of Trade will work closely with the federal leadership that is elected, both to advocate on important issues and to promote our strong communities of Ajax and Pickering. We hope that you have found this informative, and we would encourage you to pursue any follow-up questions with these candidates. Please encourage your employees, your friends, and your family to make a difference. Vote in this election Monday, October 21st. Thank you.
Driving me crazy, baby, and I like it, I love it, I know you got some more of it. Give me that Silverado feeling, driving down the road at 102, and the stars shine, it's a different kind of freedom. Don't it feel right to chase away the last of these lights? Right there on the edge of the night, we're right there on the edge. Sun starts dropping, ain't no stopping what's coming. There's a kiss waiting right on your lips, got my name all along it, and I want it. There's nothing like